Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us again. We are here with the Pulsebeat Podcast. It is sponsored by Cardio Miracle, our wonderful supplement that saves lives every day with nitric oxide therapy. We are so excited today to have a wonderful guest to be speaking with me and just going back and forth, having a conversation about health and wellness and what she is up to. She's an endurance athlete that has been running for 25 years. She has been featured on Runner's Magazine, Women's Health, Good Health, Women's Day, all over the place. So we're so excited to have from New Zealand, Lisa Tamati, right? Is that it? Okay. Sorry. I'm sorry. She's like, just roll with it. And I'm hoping that you will with me. So thanks for your patience. But so wonderful to have you here, Lisa. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm absolutely fabulous and can't wait to talk to you and hang out with you and share a few insights, hopefully. So definitely.
Yeah. It is so wonderful to have someone of your caliber with us. Now, I went to your website and it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. So it's your first and last name .com, right? So it's just
lisatamati.com. That's pretty simple.
Awesome. Love it. I love it. We're gonna plaster that on over our faces probably when we publish this, just so you know. There's a recording, so we're not live, but very excited to talk to you today and kind of speak about health and wellness and your journey and how you got into the ultra marathoning and what that process was like. How long of a process has this been for you?
Yeah, I mean, let me tell you first a little bit about myself. Yeah, so I did spend 25 years doing extreme ultra endurance running. So ran over 70,000 kilometers all over the planet. So the Moroccan Sahara, the Arabian, the Libyan desert, Niger, Jordan, the Gobi Desert, Death Valley in the USA. That's a hot one. Himalayas, the Nepalese Himalayas and Indian and Australian outback and all these crazy adventures, right? The funny thing is I have absolutely no talent whatsoever for it. I'm just a very, very stubborn person. And I like to have adventures and I like to push the limits. I've got a podcast actually, Josh. I'll have to have you on talking about Cardio Miracle because I'm very interested in that. And anything that's going to, optimize your nitric oxide production has got to be a good thing when you're an athlete, right? Didn't have it back in the day, had to do it without it. So that's, a bit sad. But yeah, so I did all this. I had all these incredible adventures. And now for the last 10 years, I've been in the longevity and health optimization space. That's my gig now. So I'm actually retired from doing the long distance stuff. I had a mum 10 years ago who had a massive aneurysm and stroke, and she was left at the age of 74 with massive brain damage. And this threw me into a new world of trying to save her life, trying to rehabilitate her. And so everything that I learned as an athlete doing extreme ultra endurance things, I flipped that into research and study and how do I help my mum, who I loved dearly, and so that sort of catapulted me into the world of longevity, and we can, share a bit of that journey along the way.
That's amazing. Oh my goodness. So if we could start with your athleticism and being an ultra marathoner, like if I'm running, people know that something's behind me and not right. So it's like, because I came from the world of strongman. So yeah. I was flipping telephone poles and, I was pulling like fire trucks and stuff. And so not really an endurance, sport, more of a strength, obviously. And I did just the local level, but I love that you did that. So what would you say was like the biggest hurdle or red flag when you were coming up and getting into the endurance athlete space?
Yeah, well, I got into it because I I sort of grew up in a family of athletes, right? My brothers were rugby players and surfers, and Dad sort of pushed us as kids to be, like he wanted us to represent our country and to be like, excellent athletes. And I always failed. I was hopeless. Like I did gymnastics and I didn't make it. And, Dad was devastated with me and I disappointed my dad and I always wanted to please my dad. And so I was always looking for what sport can I excel at, because I just didn't have what my brothers had. And, I did my best, but I just didn't cut it with gymnastics. I grew too tall and, all of that sort of stuff, right? And so I ended up having a boyfriend in my early 20s who was an extreme athlete. And so he opened my eyes to, traveling around the world on a bicycle and, climbing up and down mountains and kayaking and adventuring. And, so I had a few years doing all crazy stuff with him. And that really opened my eyes as to what you could do as a human. And it wasn't a pleasant experience in a lot of ways because he was a very not so nice person. Shall we put it politely, right? So he would always tell me how useless I was and that I would never amount to anything and I was a hopeless runner and I was never good at anything, right? And so, and I was, as a young girl, your first relationship, your big love of your life, and when they tell you you're hopeless at something, you tend to believe it, right? Sure. And this culminated after, 5 years together. We were doing a crossing of the Libyan desert. Now, this was a 250-kilometer crossing, part of the Libyan desert. It was an expedition, so it wasn't a race. It was actually illegal. We were in Gaddafi's territory, right? And it was a really extreme and dangerous expedition. There was 4 of us. There was a Yugoslavian, well, back then it was Yugoslavian survival expert, and another guy called Gunther from Germany, and then my boyfriend and I. And we had to carry massive backpacks, like 35-kilo backpacks, because we had to take 20 litres of water because that was all we could physically carry. And we only had enough for 2 litres a day of drinking water. And in the desert, when you've got 40 plus degrees and you're walking 45 kilometers and you've only got 2 liters of water, now do the math on that, it's not enough, right? It's not enough. And crazy. And, we thought, well, hopefully we'll come across some water somewhere. We didn't. And it was pretty extreme and we had extreme dehydration. When you're dehydrated, you are going through torture. Like it's the worst thing. Like hunger's one thing, but thirst is another. Like when you are dehydrated, you're pretty short-tempered. And so it ended up the boyfriend and the leader of the expedition having a big fight, right? And the fight was over me because I wasn't able to help the boyfriend with the photography because we were doing a book and photographing this incredibly beautiful desert. And no one had ever been through this desert at that point. Like it was, except for the Bedouins, right? It was not no one, there was no maps. We only had pilot maps from the US military. I don't know how we got that, but that's all we had. And so we were walking 45 Ks a day because we had to get through in 7 to 10 days maximum if we were going to survive. And we were setting up the tripod to try to take these photos, and the boyfriend was like, "You've got to help me," and and I, literally I couldn't, with 35 kilos on my back, I was just barely upright. Sure. I'm not that big a person. This was like two-thirds of my body weight, and you as a strong man will know that that's quite a lot for you to take, right? When you're trying to walk across the desert. And anyway, he was like abusing me for not helping him enough. And the leader of the expeditions piped in and said, "Hang on a minute, this is not right. You can't talk to her like that." And so anyway, this blew up on day 4, and he decided to dump me in the middle of the Libyan desert and leave me after 5 years relationship. And we're in a dire near-death situation, mate. It was not funny, right? And
I would say, they usually say don't make like a life-changing decision, like when you're pregnant or you're moving or something. But I would say if you're dehydrated, if you're starving and you're out there at a race that you guys don't know about, you probably shouldn't make some life decisions out there either, though, right? Like, you know, that.
Yeah, it pretty much was a situation like that, and it was the worst moment of my life. And I started to fall apart because he buggered off, and he got his gear and said, "Right, I'm out of here." And I didn't know whether he'd survive because we were out in the middle of a desert. There's no one to help, and I didn't know whether I'd survive either because we were running out of water and we were in dire straits. And in that moment, I started to fall apart and start crying and, being a hysterical woman, and then I'm like, hang on a minute, I can't do that. I'm in the middle of the desert. I got to pull myself together. And I learned in that moment to compartmentalize, like to put my emotions aside, the fact that my life was falling apart, and focus on the job at hand because I had to survive. And I owed it to the other guys, to get through with them. And, you have to read my book. I wrote a book about this called Running Hot, and we got through to the other side. The boyfriend also made it out, but it was pretty touch and go. And so that's how I first got into doing extreme deserts, right? And then that relationship broke up, and it took me 2 years to recover physically because I was a complete and utter mess. Like I was really like my kidneys were damaged, all the nerves in my upper body wouldn't work. It took me 2 years to recover. But then I decided I wanted to do more adventures, but I wanted to do it in a more, controlled manner. And so I heard about ultramarathon running, and I heard about this race in Morocco that you could do, which was 250 kilometers across the Saharan Moroccan desert. And it was touted back then as the toughest race on earth. And I'm like, never done an ultramarathon before. Never done a marathon before, actually, but maybe I could do this because it was a similar distance to the Libyan desert. It was a lot less weight. We were only carrying like 10, 11 kilos. We had doctors. We had, 9 liters of water a day. It's like, piece of cake, I can do this. So I signed up for it, and the rest, as they say, is history.
I'm looking up the conversion for us Americans of 250 kilometers to miles. So
that's, what it'd be 140, 50 miles, 150
Oh, is it?
miles.
Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm not that. Yeah. 155 miles. That is, but oh my gosh.
Long way.
That's unbelievable. And then you were just like, I'm just going to get into this. Like, this is what I'm going to do. That's unreal.
And I loved it. It was the most incredible experience because I was no longer with the boyfriend, right? And I was all
you're like, forget him. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, move on. And I had all these wonderful people that were all on this mission, and it was tough, but we were all helping each other, and the camaraderie, that was like a big army unit that moved every day through the desert, and it was just really well run and really awesome. And that sort of started my career in ultramarathoning. I just couldn't get enough after that, so I just did one after the other, and had a few, failures along the way as well. But just got right into it. Yeah.
So do you know how many? Like, this is kind of a broad question, but it's like, how many ultramarathons are like available to anybody, like in 1 year? Like,
well, there are thousands, Josh, all around the world. Thousands. Like this is like the strongman world. Like because you were in it, and I actually love watching those guys. Man, they're just awesome. By the way, and it's a whole world, right? And it's a whole community, and you go around the world doing these things. Same with ultramarathoning. There's a huge community of people that do it. Literally, hundreds of thousands of people that do anything from, say, a 50 kilometer, which is like, 30 miler, up to 100 milers and 200, and even races that go right across continents. So there's different levels of crazy.
For sure. The different levels of extremists. I love it, and it's so true. Like I only competed in strongman at a local level, but I loved how it made me feel of accomplishing something and people looking at me like, holy crap. Like when I pick up an Atlas stone or something that was 200 pounds or flip a tire or whatever, like that for me brought me the satisfaction of like, yeah, I'm doing something that, these people watching can't do or whatever, but also just a self-fulfillment of setting a goal, making a promise to myself or whatever and doing it and following through. And
Absolutely.
so while you're out there doing 250 kilometers, like during that process, what's going on in your head? Like, what are your main thoughts? Are you just thinking like through the whole, like, I know it's got to be different, but what's the main kind of like driving force that's getting you through those moments
a really good
silence?
question, Josh. You're talking about days and hours and days, right? So everything's going through your head in that period of time, right? Every possible emotion. But you're going through real highs and real lows. So you get really euphoric at times, like you get that runner's high and you're like, I'm on fire, I can do this, I've got this. And then other times you'll be just like, I can't take another step, I'm dying. You're just, you feel like you're falling apart literally, or you hit the wall, which is when you run out of glycogen in your body, you don't have enough glucose and you just collapse basically. And you don't know how you're going to get up, and you have to sort of pull yourself together and maybe have a break for 20 minutes and then get to your knees and then get to your feet and then take another step. It teaches you so much about life, right? It's just like, it's an analogy for life. Ultramarathoning is an analogy for life. You've got to be able to just keep moving forward no matter how bad things get. So sometimes you're going so slow, you're not running. We've got a saying in ultramarathon world is, if you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl, but just keep moving forward somehow, right? And that's an analogy for life, right? Because we all know that life comes and it smashes you over the head with something every 5 minutes. And you've got to like, how do I keep going? How do I grind through this mess? How do I keep going when every cell in my body just wants to sit down and lie down and go to sleep and stop? And so you're fighting this battle. I call them like the lion and the snake in your head. And you got the snake who's going, who the hell do you think you are? You're not good enough for this. You can't make this. You're hopeless. You're never gonna finish this. This is never gonna happen. And then you've got the lion going, come on, you've got this. You can make it. You're doing this for your family. You're doing this for, whatever the motivating force is for you. Yeah. And you're like, I've got this. And so you've got this big battle in your head. Yeah. and it's like, who's winning? And every minute. And it gets down, Josh, sometimes to 1 minute at a time. You're battling to keep going, and you just don't know if you can take one more step. And I remember I was up in the Himalayas once. I was doing a race. This one was 222 kilometers, so that's like 137 miles or something.
Yeah. Thank you for converting.
Yeah, around about.
I'm like, hold on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And this one was extreme altitude, right? Up at 5,600, 5,800 meters. We were doing this incredible distance. We had to go over 2 passes. So we started off at 3,600 meters, which I can't convert, and then up to 5,800, which is about 18,000 feet, right? So really, really high, and then back down to again to that floor level of the valley, and then back up again. And while running, and you had temperatures from plus 40 degrees in the valleys to minus degrees and snowstorms on the top of the mountain, and this was a race that I knew was going to really be at my limit, because I'm an asthmatic. I spent my whole childhood in and out of hospital, unable to breathe in the cold.
Oh
so
goodness.
most of the races I did were in hot climates because of that. I was no good in the cold. My lungs were shut down. But I heard about this race in the Himalayas, and I'd read every book about the Himalayas that there was, and mountaineers. They're all my heroes. And so I wanted to do this race in the Himalayas, right? And the first year that they'd held this race, only 3 runners had actually started the race, and only 1 had survived and completed it. The other 2 had ended up in hospital. And the second year that they held this race, I thought, well, I want to be there. I want to do this incredible journey. And so I rang up the guy who had finished the race, and his name was Mark. And Mark had, he was an incredible human being who'd done the most incredible things on the planet. And so he said to me, it was the toughest race I've ever done. But he said to me one thing. He said, Lisa, do you realize no woman has finished this race? And I'm like, I didn't hear anything else.
You're like, that's it.
That's it. I'm going to be the first woman. I'm going to be the first woman to do this race, right? And so I signed up for it. And then everything, Josh, went wrong that could possibly go wrong. So I had an altitude tent that I got sponsored. I had these cool sponsors who gave me this tent that I slept in, and it takes a portion of the oxygen out of the air so that you adapt to the altitude, right? So it's like altitude training for athletes. And so I slept in this thing. But then I decided, because you're meant to start off very slow and go up higher and higher and higher. And I was running out of time before the race, and I was impatient, and I'm always extreme anyway. And so I decided I wanted to go up higher, faster. And so I rang up my ex-husband, and he's an Austrian ultramarathon runner, and he had one of these tents, you see. And I said to him, hey, you've got one of these. Do I need to follow the instructions, or can I go higher, faster? You know, because I'm running out of time before this race and I need to adapt. And he's like, don't follow the instructions. Just put it to the max, which is 6,500 meters, and go for it, you know, just sleep in it. And I'm like, any of the ladies listening out there, if you've got an ex-husband, never, ever trust your ex-husband. He may be trying to kill you.
Oh, my gosh.
I did. I slept in this thing at 6,500 meters. And what ended up happening after a couple of weeks is I started to have a whole lot of things going wrong in my body. I started to have infections everywhere, bacteria. When you don't have enough oxygen, your body proliferates bacteria. And so every orifice was doing something you don't want to know. It was horrible. And then I started to have brain problems. Now, you might think I've got a few issues anyway, but this was different. I was having like missing pieces of my day. I'd forget, you know, who I was talking to. I, you know, talk to you 1 minute and forget you the next, and things like this. Like parts of my day were missing. My memory was shot. And so I went to the doctor and I said, I might have pushed it a bit hard with this tent thing, preparing for this race. And he's like, oh my God, at what level are you sleeping in? And I said, 6,500 meters. And he fell off his chair.
What are you doing?
What are you doing? And I'm like, this is insane. And he said, well, what are your oxygen levels? I said, well, you know, those little SpO2 monitors that they stick on your finger, you can monitor your oxygen. I said, well, like, when I do that in the night, it's like 70%. And he was like, oh my God, that is deadly. Wow. And I'm like, I thought 70% was a pass in an exam, you know, so it should be okay. And I didn't know anything about anything at that point. And he was like, no, you're knocking off your brain cells. You've got a hypoxic brain concussion. You've knocked off a lot of your brain cells, and you couldn't really afford to do that. And now you've got this sensitized to altitude, and you've got a concussion, and you need to get out of that tent. And I suggest you pull out of the race. And I'm like, I'm not pulling out of the race. I've been preparing for over a year and a half. I've got sponsors.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I've got film crew, I've got sponsors, everything. So I got out of the tent though, and I started to slowly try to recover. And then I went over to Australia to do a preparatory race over there, a training race. It was 100 kilometers in the mountains. And I did this race, and everything went pretty good. I managed to get through. I was starting to come right from the brain injury. And the following day, I was doing a photo shoot for the North Face because they were my sponsors. And when the North Face does a photo shoot, it's a freaking photo shoot. Like, it's all day and 5 photographers and, you know, like massive in the mountains. And so I'm out there all day taking photos for them, for their magazines and stuff. And I was really tired because I'd just run 100K. And at nighttime, we were doing these shots with a flash, you know, like so that he could get this incredible, you know, photo with the night sky and the flash and me running. And I came, because I got blinded by the flash, I came down on my ankle and I ripped the ligaments off my ankle, and and so this was like 10 weeks out from the race, and the doctor said, well, you can't run for the next 7 weeks while your ligaments heal, and you better pull out of the race. And so now I've got like brain concussion, infections, rip the ligaments off my ankle, and I've got this biggest race coming up. And so I'm like, I'm not pulling out. I'm still going. I don't know what I'm going to do. But this is what you do, Josh. When you got obstacles, right? Yeah. And you can't run anymore, like you can't train. So it's like, okay, what can I do? I can go to the gym. I can do weights. I can do swimming. I can do, other things. I can do mental preparation. I can give my body a rest. Maybe that's a good thing, So I turned it into a positive, and I just went, right, this is what we're doing. We're doing it anyway. So, when it finally got through the 7 weeks, started to back into running, and then straight over to India for the race. So we head over to India, and we're facing down the barrel of this, massive race. And we get over there, and there's 7 runners who've turned up to do this race. 5 of them were women. 5 out of the 7.
What?
And I'm like, I thought I'd be the only woman. I thought, all I had to do was cross the finish line in last place. It wouldn't matter. I'd be the first woman, right? No, 5 women turned up.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
So now you got to beat them all, right?
Yeah, exactly. Now I'll go like, Yeah. So I was annoyed at that. One of the ladies looked at the place and went, this is too dangerous. She got out of there. So we're down to 6. And then we had a group of doctors come over from America, and they were studying us because humans had never done this before. They'd never gone up to that level while running 222 kilometers, right? Apart from Mark the year before. So they wanted to study what happens to the human body when you're doing this type of stuff, extreme altitude. And so they were studying us, but they were also there to look after us to make sure that we didn't die, right? And they were giving us lectures on cerebral edema and pulmonary edema and how you can die this way or that way. And so we were just like, I was just terrified when I learned about how you can die of altitude sickness and what can happen.
Yeah.
And so it got to the point where I was just like, absolutely terrified. Everything had gone wrong. On top of that, I wasn't adapting to the altitude. All the other athletes, they were taking our blood every day. They were seeing that we were adapting. I wasn't adapting. I was very anemic. I had problems with my menstrual cycle, so I was having real big problems actually just getting enough blood and getting enough oxygen anyway at sea level, let alone up at this level. So I was really in dire straits. But I thought, well, I'm here now, right? I might as well go for it.
Yeah.
And so I said to my crew, let's prepare everything. Let's talk about every scenario, the strategy. I had an incredible crew. And protect me from everybody. Stop anybody getting to me because I don't want any negativity. When you decide to take on something big, Josh, you don't need people telling you that this is going to happen and you could possibly die from this and you could possibly die from that. You don't need any of that because you know it, right?
Yeah.
So you're going ahead, so you may as well protect yourself and pretend everything's going to be good and surround yourself with positivity, right? And so that's what my crew did. And so we got to the start line of this race and we were off, and I'm like, going up this first pass, and I knew the first pass I'd probably be okay because I was fresh, and I let everyone else go. They were racing on ahead of me, and I'm just like doing my own thing, pacing myself, taking it easy. I get through the first 24 hours, I get over that first pass. I have an asthma attack on the way down, but I get through it. I get down towards the second pass. So 24 hours is already gone. You've been running for 24 hours and you're coming into the second valley where this next pass. And I know that the second pass is going to be because I'm exhausted already and I've got to go up to altitude a second time, which is really, really next level for the body to do that. And I get heat stroke in the morning because it's 40 odd degrees. I pass out, blank out. My crew come and pop me in the car. It's a next level extreme. Anyway, to cut a very freaking long story short.
I love it. I love it.
It's because it's very next level. I've got a documentary on this if anyone wants to watch it, but it's on my YouTube channel. I've got to go 35 kilometers up this hill. And as we're going up slowly, I'm walking now, I can't run. I can only walk at a very slow pace. I can hardly breathe. I've got asthma and the cold starts to come in. As the day wears on, it goes into night. And then we have a massive snowstorm on the mountain, right? And I'm in dire straits by now. If you can imagine, it's 10 o'clock at night, you're in the middle of a snowstorm, you've been out there for 40 something hours now, you're just in absolute hell. You couldn't imagine hell. Yeah. And I'm just the whole time just trying to talk myself into taking one more step. My crew's doing everything they can. I'm like the Michelin man. I've got every layer of clothing that you could possibly have on me. And every 100 steps or 100 meters, I have to stop and just sit down and just catch my breath because you can't breathe up there. Yeah. And I was struggling with the asthma. And it got to a point where I'm like trying to calculate how far is it is to the top, because I don't think I can carry on much more. I'm absolutely toast. And I'm calculating in my head, I think it's only a couple of kilometers. I can make it. And then one of my guys comes over from the crew and he says, look, we've calculated it out. It's actually 6 kilometers to the top. And I'm like, 6 kilometers at this speed, that's 2 hours. I can't handle this. It broke me, right? It just absolutely broke me. And I just sat down in the snow and I just bawled my eyes out. And that's it, guys. I'm done. I cannot make another step. Like, I am toast, you know. And my crew, they huddled around me and they cuddled me and they were like, you're just amazing. We're so proud of what you've been through. We've seen it. We've been here with you. You're just awesome. You know, don't worry. And they gave me permission to fail, right? And then I had one guy in my crew, and his name was Chris, and he was a journalist, and he was embedded in my crew. And he came over and he sat down in front of me in the snow, and he grabbed me by the shoulders and he shook me, and he wasn't smiling, and he wasn't telling me that it was okay. And he told me to get your ass off the ground and take another step, like in no uncertain terms, like. And I was so shocked that he, you know, swore at me to get up and get moving, and that you're not going to fail now. I'm not going to let you fail now. And you've been through so much, and I've been through so much, he said, that you're going to do it for me. And you're going to get up. And so I was so shocked. I got up and I walked and took another step. And he said, look, I'm going to stay out here with you every step of the way to the top of this damn pass, and you're going to make it. And because he did that and he got me over that hump, and he did, he walked me, and one of the other guys came out, and these two walked and talked me up to the top of this hill, up to the top of this pass. And they got me over that mental hump, right? And, you know, cut a long story short, I finished it in 53 hours and 5 minutes, but I was the second woman home. I was beaten by a 55-year-old grandmother from England who also had asthma.
Oh my God.
Yeah, like your age is no barrier, your sex is no barrier, your ethnicity is no barrier, your talent is no barrier. When you really, really want something, and when you have a good team, and when you have a strategy and you have a goal, you can achieve incredible things if you set your mind to it, right? And if you have a team that will pick you up when you're down. And I learned so much in that, right? I never want to do it again. Like, it was horrific.
You're like, I'm good. I'm done. Yeah.
I'm done. Yeah, I was definitely done. But those were lessons for life. And then, you know, years later, when I was facing the situation with my mum, and you have all these doctors telling you, like, she's never going to have any quality of life again. She was like in a vegetative state after having this aneurysm. She was, you know, had little bit of function, but hardly anything. Massive brain damage at age 74. And they're saying to me, look, there's nothing you can do. Put her into an institution. She's going to die. And I'm just going, yeah. And I was told I couldn't run the Sahara. And I was told I couldn't climb the Himalayas. And I was told that I'm not listening to you guys. I'm not listening to you. And so I started to put a team of people together on my team of good doctors who would tell me the next step that I could take. You know, so I searched the world for the research. I studied something called hyperbaric oxygen therapy. And this is very, very powerful for brain injuries, among other things, cancer and other things as well. But I realized from reading this book about hyperbaric that this was something that could possibly help my mum. So after 3 months in the hospital, no progress, and, you know, lots of horrific situations with the doctors in there, I finally got her out of the hospital, and I managed to get her access to a hyperbaric chamber at a commercial dive company, of all places. And these wonderful people had let me use their chamber. And so we started to put my very frail, fragile mum, you know, who's paralyzed, into this chamber. And we started to do treatment after treatment. And we did 33 treatments in a very short period of time, like just over a month. And she started to respond, like she started to have a little bit of higher function, because hyperbaric, you're hyper-oxygenating the body. And so you're giving it the necessary ingredients, if you like, to start the healing process. And, you know, it's more complicated than that, but, you know.
Yeah.
So
we love the hyperbaric chambers. I mean, I get in it, zip it up, and I'm in there, and I'm just, so I love it. I'm definitely on the same page with you.
Yeah, you know how powerful it is. As an athlete, you know how powerful, but you can imagine when you've got a brain injury, how powerful this is, especially if you have enough treatments. You need a lot of treatments. So anyway, after 33 treatments, they had to take the chamber off for a contract. And so I lost access to it. So I mortgaged my house. I bought a hyperbaric chamber and I installed it in my house. And I had to work out then, how do I put my paralyzed mum into this thing? Because that's not easy, right? I worked out a way and we started to do session after session. And then I started to study everything I possibly could to rehabilitate a brain. I read every brain and neuroscience book I could. I studied functional neurology. I studied keto diet. I studied, supplementation and, everything that I possibly could to stay one step ahead of her. I developed my own plans on how to rehabilitate her. And it took me 2.5 years to get her back to full capacity. Like, she got back to driving her car, like getting her driver's license. Oh. She got back to walking 5 kilometers a day, going to the gym. And I actually wrote a book about this. That's the book there, Josh. That's my mum on the front cover.
Yeah.
And that book's called Relentless. And so that was my foray then into longevity and health optimization and rehabilitation. And so that was unfortunately only though round 1 with mum, because then 4 years ago she got brain cancer. And we were told once again, she's dying. There's nothing you can do. This is an aggressive cancer. She's only got weeks to live. And so then I dived into, because I have my podcast, I started to interview all the doctors on the metabolic approach to cancer. And I started to put 15 doctors on her team that had different expertises in different areas of the cancer journey, right? And I threw the bus at it. Like, it cost me a fortune. I had to sell a house to finance her trying to save her life. But, we're now 4 years later. She's got no cancer currently, touch wood. We've had other challenges like broken hips and other things that she's gone through. But the cancer that was there on the MRI is not there anymore. We've done the metabolic approach. I've now written a book called What Your Oncologist Isn't Telling You, and it's all about the metabolic approach to cancer and adjunct therapies like hyperbaric. And
my goodness,
it's a pretty amazing journey, Josh. And we fight every day. She's got disabilities now, so I have to care for her, but she's still enjoying life. She's still got a quality of life, and it's about the human spirit. Like, the human spirit is just incredible. You can achieve anything you want to, And like, when I look at your cardio miracle and your nitric oxide and the story behind it, like, that's a similar story, right? Yeah. Medical problems, medical misadventures. I'm going to find a way. I'm going to find a product. I'm going to find a thing. Developing this incredible cardio miracle that I can't wait to get my hands on now that I've found out about it. Like, you've got to get me some down here.
Yeah. No, my dad actually created the product, and he's got a real big soft spot in his heart for New Zealand. He did a service mission, many years ago, in New Zealand, actually, in Australia. And so this, like, getting our product New Zealand certified or whatnot with your customs and everything is one of our biggest missions when we're starting to expand.
If I can help with that journey, because I want to see that down here, and I want to try it myself. Now that you guys reached out to me and I found out about you, I'm like, hell, I want this, because I know what nitric oxide is about. I have already done quite a lot of research on nitric oxide. I use had Dr. Nathan Bryan on, who you probably know a little bit about his. So anything that's going to help people with their nitric oxide. And when I looked through the ingredients of your product, I was like, holy crap, that's basically what I take every day, except it's all in one thing. Like, it's all in one drink. And I was just like, whoa, this is next level. So
one little single serve here has 58 whole and organic fruits and vegetables in it, and it creates and sustains nitric oxide in your blood for 24 hours a day. And that's the beauty of it, and that's the miracle of it. Of every pun intended. So so as you're going through this entire journey, what would you say, like, the biggest lie that was ever told to you that you have overcome?
Oh, the 10 times that the doctors on 10 separate occasions for 10 different things that have told my mother, I'm not exaggerating with 10, that she's dying and that there's nothing that can be done. And here she is, she's come back from sepsis, she's come back from hip fractures, she's come back from gastrointestinal bleeding, she's come back from brain cancer, she's come back from aneurysms and strokes. And every single time she's come back from UTIs and, other things, every single time they're like, well, you should sign this advanced care planning thing, which means they don't resuscitate you because you're not worth saving. And they tell you that, it's just your time, you've got to, and they don't respect their elders. They want them gone. They're costing them the system money. These are the people that have built our country, excuse me.
Yeah.
These are the people that have got us where we are now, and that's how we treat them now. I'm an activist for protection of our older people because, and we're all going to be there soon. You know what I mean? Like we're all getting older, right? Do you want to be treated like a horse that's sent to the slaughterhouse because it's too old, because it's done its dash? That's not the way to be. The way a civilization treats their older population is a measure of how civilized they are. And if that's the measure, then we're not doing too well. And I people say to me, well, she's going to die one day. And I say, yeah, we're all going to die one day, but I'm going to, rage against the dying of the light, as they say, because life is binary. You're either alive or you're dead. And if you're alive, you fight. And you want to, if that's what you want, and my mum wants to live. She wants to fight. She wants to live, and as long as she wants to live and I want her around, obviously, she's experiencing being with her grandchildren, seeing them grow up and being a part of our lives and, all of those things that she would have missed if I'd given up 10 years ago and let them put her into a home and believed everything that they said. Never believe. When someone tells you that there is no cure for this disease, this is what I tell you, that the medical knowledge is doubling every 72 days. There is not a person on the planet who is across all of that research that is going on right now. AI is collapsing the research. So we are going to have access and we're going to be able to, fix diseases and do the things. And in the meantime, we've got these incredible things like what you're doing, like what I'm doing, like hyperbaric, like, I have a biotech company too. I do formulations. I make things as well.
Do you make time as well? How do you have the time in the day to do all this cool stuff?
I don't. I'm completely overwhelmed most of the time. But
I love this, Lisa. I love looking at your book, the Relentless: How a Mother and Daughter Defy the Odds. I love that. You couldn't have picked a better name for your book. And I love, it's like you've got a series, right? You got Running Hot, you got Running to the Extremes. Yeah. I mean, your guys,
your family's done the same thing, right? I mean, you know what it's like.
We do. We're a family of extremists. We love it. My dad and our mission out here is we're going to save hundreds of millions of lives. And now he's even stepped up even more and said he wants to save the hearts of mankind. And we're so blessed and excited to be a part of a mission like this. And if I could quickly share, I'm going to sum up kind of with my experience with nitric oxide therapy. In 2009, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And they told me that because I had 27 lesions on my brain that I had I just had to go on disability as a 24-year-old and just deal with it because MS is uncurable. And this isn't like a big thing against doctors or anything. It's what they know. It's just the blinders of what they know. So I was told that I just, go through life, go on disability. And then I had one neurologist tell me that he said, when you stop moving, you start dying. So keep moving as much as you can.
Brilliant.
And I just kept moving and moving and moving. And my dad got me on a different nitric oxide booster, and it was with a different company. And I went on a very aggressive dose of nitric oxide therapy, and along with like acai berry and greens and all that. And 6 months later, they took an MRI of me, and they said I had 0 lesions on my brain. And so they said also that they must have had like a dirty lens on the MRI machine, which I think that's pretty horrible if you're paying $2,500 for an MRI and they have a dirty lens. And so what I believe is I had a second chance, and now this is a legacy business, and this is my mission as much as it is my father's mission to save the hearts of mankind. And we're so excited and so blessed to be able to do this with people like yourself. And so I'm definitely getting some product to you so you can try it out for yourself and see what it's all about.
We've got to get it down here. We have to get it to New Zealand to get available. Like, I have a curated range of stuff that I bring in from the States and all around the place. The stuff that I use for my mum is the stuff that I have in my thing, because I wanted it for my mum to begin with, but actually, why the hell am I not sharing it with everyone else? And so we have to talk off air on how we do that, because and I am a big fan of all the nitric oxide research and what it does. So I know this inside out, and I know, and I've seen it help my clients that I work with. I've seen it help myself and my athletic abilities. I've seen my mum, who no longer has to be on blood pressure medications. You know, she doesn't have the cold feet. She doesn't have the circulation issues. She doesn't have, because of this. You know, and this is a new variation that's got, like, I put together all of those ingredients that you have in there separately on separate pills. Like, you can imagine how many pills mum's taking.
Oh, yeah.
So this might replace a lot of that all into one formulation, rather than having to take so many pills every day.
It will. Yeah, it will, for sure. And I know that you say you still care for your mom and everything, but how is she doing today?
Yeah, she's brilliant. She's off at my brother's at the moment. She's staying with him for the night. She had a night off me.
Unbelievable.
And she's I'm going to pick her up and take her to the gym shortly. And then we'll go out for lunch, and she's just going for it, you know. Like, she's got balance issues because she's got hydrocephalus, which is water on the brain. So the only thing, you know, like when you're sitting having a coffee with her, you don't know that she's got, you know, mental, cognitive impairments. You know, she's has to think a little bit more about how she words things, but she's, you know, otherwise normal. She's an artist. She, you know, she can do all of that. She just has balance issues. So I have to monitor her when she's walking, that she doesn't fall. That's the major thing that we have to deal with. And, you know, I look after her, you know, do all her, you know, cares and everything for her 24/7. And that means that I have to, you know, my whole work life has to work around her, you know. So I know what it takes to care for a loved one that's sick, and we're very blessed to have, you know, these types of you know, online streaming, so I can meet incredible people all over the world without having to travel, and I can do my professional work and still look after my mum. So we're very blessed in that way, really, you know.
And bless you. Like, that's amazing.
I think, like you, like our family wants to have an impact on the world. That's why I wrote the book, because I want people to not give up when they're given a dire prognosis, whether it's like multiple sclerosis, like what you were given, or like mum's, because the doctors in your local clinic may not have all the answers, but there will be some doctor or researcher out there in the world who might. And that's that hope that has to keep fueling you until you find it. But you have to have a nature that is a fighter mentality. You have to be relentless. You have to go down alleyways that lead nowhere and spend money and do the thing, the hard stuff. But if you're willing to do that, then you've got a chance at overcoming incredible odds, you know.
Absolutely. Lisa, please tell everybody how they can find you, as social media or just your website, or what is the best way to follow your journey and get your books and everything?
Yeah, so my website is lisatamati.com, Tamati. And then I have a podcast called Pushing the Limits, which you're going to come on, Josh. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. And then I have a YouTube channel that I'm really trying to get that going. So I really want people to go and subscribe on the YouTube if they don't mind. Just look up Lisa Tamati on YouTube and you'll find my channel. I've got over 700 interviews on there. I've been doing this for a fair while, and a whole bunch of documentaries from the ultramarathoning days. So please, go and subscribe on the YouTube channel. And then I have a biotech company called AVIM Labs, AEVUM. And we're going after the aging of the immune system. That's we have a flagship product called Rejuvenate Pro, which is aimed at reversing the age of the immune system and healing gut health. So really looking after that gut, that cellular health, and your immune system, which is at the core of all aging. So really powerful combination. So I'd love people to go and check out AVIM Labs, AEVUM. So
Fantastic.
I'll send you all those links and you can pop them in the show notes.
And is the best place to get your books on your website?
On my website, yep. I think they're on Amazon too. They're a few years old now, so I think they're still up on there. But I think in America you can still get Relentless and Running Hot and Running to Extremes on Amazon's probably the easiest, or just via my website for sure.
Yeah, it looks like on your website there's bundles and things like that you can take advantage of. So that's fantastic. I love that. So people can get all the stuff, and we're definitely going to be in touch, Lisa, and cannot thank you enough for coming on today. And as we close and wrap up, you've given us so many great messages and everything throughout, but is there like a 90-second little, last word kind of thing for us?
Yeah, I think never ever give up. If you're still alive, if you're still breathing, there's still hope. And, you've just got to take the bull by the horns. Never listen to anybody who tells you you can't do something. If you've got your mind to do something, right, you want to take on a massive challenge and someone tells you you can't, find someone who tells you you can, and then work with them and find people that you can build into your team, because you need a team to get through big challenges, no doubt about it. But then you will find a way through. If you have a good team by your side and you have the access now to the information, because it's no longer gated behind medical libraries and things, you've got access. You can listen to people like Josh, you can listen to these podcasts, you can learn from YouTube, you can, you have access to all of these things. You've got these LLMs, these AI things that can help you incredibly with your research. Trust yourself to start that journey. Never, ever give up, and never, ever let anyone take away your hope.
I love it. I love it so much. We have been brainwashed somewhat as a society to believe that we do have limits. And that's what's so wonderful about the human body and the human spirit, is that we are limitless. And so I love your title. Relentless is amazing. And it's been such a pleasure to be with you today. And I'm looking so forward to coming onto your podcast and speaking more truth. So thank you so much for your time, Lisa. We appreciate you so much.